Yeah, I'm sorry that people can't see the guitar and stuff like that, but it's more important
Man,
to hear than to see.
that's right. Don't stress that, man. You know what I'm saying? It is more important to hear. Plus, you're you. So,
I'm
you know,
trying to be the best one I can be. That's about
hey,
it.
believe me, you are. You are the best that you got. Are you kidding me? Your list of accolades go far beyond those of mortal men, like Superman.
Let me tell you, man. There's only one reason why this is happening is because somebody has grace for me through the
Yeah,
ancestors and stuff like that. Everything that I have, I'm just a conduit. That's it.
yeah.
I'm
Hey, you
not.
and me both. You and
I'm
me
not a
both.
cause. I'm a conduit.
After, after I figured that out, I was good to go.
Yeah.
Despite my surgeries or whatever, man. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's all good. It's all good. I love that word conduit. We're gonna get into that because you're a space child like me. I got sidetracked.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I'm back on point now. Even though I'm having another surgery in a week and a half, I'm okay.
Yeah, man. What is the surgery about?
It's the replacing of the shoulder of the replacement.
All right,
The
it's a go.
replacements. Okay. The replacement of the shoulder of the replacement.
You good, Mark?
Yeah, I think he said something like we're on, so I think that.
What's up? What's up? How you guys doing? What's happening out there? We chilling today. You see, I got some serious swag on. Today, we got one of the best to ever do it. My man, my brother, Mr. André Lassalle is hanging out with us, and we get ready to really, really chop it up. He might even treat us to a track, a song that he's going to do and play a little bit for us. We got a lot to talk about today on Funk Music with Zack. So you know how we always come on with something a little funky. And here's what I want y'all to do out there. IBM.TV proudly presents Funk Music with Zack. Here we are today, chilling out with Mr. André Lassalle in the house with us. So we need you to get your funk on, get your funk swag on, grab a nice water. Make sure you stay safe wherever you are. I want you to rock back and forth with us. Get your energy level up because we got coming right here to Funk Music with Zack on IBM.TV, Mr. André Lassalle, y'all. What's up? What's up, André? How you doing, bro?
Doing good, man. Just want to give a little shout out to my friends and everybody,
Shout it out, man.
especially a special person by the name of VB. They will know who they are. And just very glad to be here. You and myself go back quite a while.
Oh, we do. We got a story to tell how we met.
Yeah, which is definitely different, and that's due
Yes,
to the person who's
yeah.
coming on after us.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really, really cool to have you, and you've been a lifelong friend of mine since day we met. Obviously, we know each other from other spirits and other different dimensions and things like
Yeah.
that, man. But
Hmm.
brother, first of all, let me ask you, how are you and your beautiful mom and family doing, man? How are you doing? Because I know you're very, very tight with your family. And how's everybody doing here and back home in Jamaica, man?
Well, you know something, Trinidad and Cayman,
Trinidad, I'm sorry.
yeah, but
Sorry,
that's right. Trinidad and Cayman and Colombia also. But
Trinidad.
it's like we have a lot of ancestral spirit here,
Yeah, we do.
and especially in this house. Like I practice Orisha and Palo
Hmm.
Mayombe, which is a religion that we really communicate with our ancestors and stuff like that, as well as everybody does. It's just like all of us take different roads to get to that point. Mine
Yeah.
is through Orisha and Palo, and we give respect, and we love them, and the love is reciprocated. And so far, and we have been doing so well.
Right, right, right,
So
right, right.
thank goodness, everything's been
That
going
that's
good.
beautiful. Tell me a little bit about those two particular things that you practice, religion, because I'm not quite as familiar, but I've heard of them, and I know you and I have talked about that a lot. So
Yeah.
just give me a little bit of background for our fans out there that might want to get into it, read up about it, and get involved in it. So this way they kind of know what's going on with that.
Well, Orisha is Orisha, and
Hmm.
Orisha is basically that is saying basically the pantheon of different energies that are surrounding us.
Right.
Uh, the energy of the sea is called Yamaya. The energy of lightning and thunder is Shango, which is I'm a child of Chango.
Hmm.
There's Oshun, which is what we call sweet water,
Right.
the
Right.
rivers and stuff like that, and they all take on different attributes. One helps us with being able to get prosperity, and the other one, like Obatala, is allows us to get calmness and stuff like
Right.
that. So basically, it's a religion that started way before Christianity started in Nigeria, in Africa, and everything. So it's
Right. Right.
basically, especially everybody comes from that place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we
Yes.
can all
Yes.
keep on going back to that source.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's basically it. It's just a way to get bypass the whole thing with the different types of religion that we are sometimes brainwashed into thinking is our path.
Exactly. I agree with you, bro, because when
Yeah,
I
yeah,
when
yeah.
I was able to overcome my addictions, and believe me, I had many.
Me
You and I
too,
talked
bro.
about that, and I got into Buddhism. And
Right.
people ask me why, and I said, well, if you really read the history, Christianity is cool, but there was something before that. I'm not knocking Christianity,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
there was.
Exactly.
And I always wanted to find out what was before that, and up until that point I had never done that. So when I
Right.
did my research and started actually going back to our roots, going back to Africa, going back to Egypt, going back to the Middle East, and understanding, okay, the first people were there, obviously they had something before.
That's right.
This other
That's right.
thing happened in the United States, and it's all around the world. Christianity is a beautiful thing. Anything about
It
love,
is.
but when I got into
That's right.
Buddhism, I really found my true self, like you found your true self. I was able
Exactly.
to get over some things that I really needed to get over. And even
Yeah.
throughout, the depression that I had to fight off here and there, and you and I have talked about that, I was still
Yeah.
able to hang on to that and understand, my role. You mentioned the energy and different dimensions, and we all have that. Some people are
That's right.
tuned in, some are not.
We all do. We all
We
do.
all do.
And what it does is it gives us reason to understand that we are being put through something for a
Yes,
reason. And
yes,
once we
yes.
understand the reason why, we have a better understanding, or we're more cognizant of
Yep.
that. What we're doing is we're fulfilling a path that we have to get to, so that this way we can go through our path in the
Amen.
least amount of resistance.
Amen. That's right. That's right. Amen.
So
Amen.
yeah.
And people nowadays, it would behoove them to seek out something rather
Yes,
than
something.
nothing. Right,
That's right.
because look at
That's
where
right.
we are.
Something. Right.
Something.
Exactly.
Right. Something. Get something. I mean, some people are like, hey, well, I don't believe in this and that. And that's fine. Everybody got their thing. You know what I mean? The creator sets it up for us to have free will. Gary and
And
I talk
remember the
about.
tower, and even in the Bible, they talk about the Tower of Babel.
That's
So
right. That's
therefore,
right.
everything was separated, so that this way we can all find our own individual paths, because one path isn't right for everyone.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that, brother, because so many people are pigeonholed into, if they don't do this, they feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's really the opposite. It's really, you're supposed to find your own path. The meaning of life is to discover your gift. The purpose and the meaning of life is to give it back.
That's right.
I'm
That's right.
honest at that. And having you in my life, and the whole Queens connection, and we're going to get into all of that stuff, man. You guys have really been an example of how true love really works. You know what I mean? Because true love is true love. Love for brotherhood, love for people you grew up with musically, man. So yeah, so that's really cool. And I'm glad you brought that to light, because I always like my guests to feel comfortable, and my audience to understand what it is that my guests may be into, brother. So let's chop this up for a minute. Now that I know your family's safe and you're okay. New
And I have
York.
an obligation of good intent. That's what I always say is my real path. The obligation
See?
of good intent.
And that's the key right there, having an obligation. We're obligated to give this back,
That's right.
as artists, as doctors, whoever, mothers, dads, sisters, sons, we're obligated. And so many times the world with the worldly things, the worldly things, they always distract us. My problem is now, and Kevin and I talk about this a lot off the air, and you and I have spoke about this. Distractions, are really, really taking us off our path. And we need to figure that out as people, human beings. And it's not black, white. Obviously,
That's right.
Black Lives Matter, but it's really not about pigment color. It's not.
No, it's about without a doubt. It's a class thing, but you're right. Absolutely.
Yep. You've played with so many bands and so many famous artists, from Bernie Worrell to, Vernon Reid to, the Burnt Sugar Orchestra, to all these things. You recently, last year before this started, you did and this is something I want you to tell them about. You did a live theater version of Shaft. So tell me how all that came about.
The way how that came about was through the people. Really, I have to always put it on Greg Tate. Greg Tate is the person who leads Burnt Sugar with Jared Nickerson, both of those guys. And I guess through Greg's being a writer also for the Village Voice and a bunch of other plays, like he worked for Vibe magazine and did a live interview with Miles Davis and Carlos Santana and stuff like that. A lot of paths have been opened up to him, and they seem to consult him with a lot of different projects that they have, because what Burnt Sugar is ability to be able to take on spontaneous writing, where he does it by conduction. And then all of a sudden we started to get into this thing where we started to do like shows that were based on other artists like David Bowie, Steely Dan, Sun Ra, Max Roach and Abby Lincoln and stuff like that. So they called upon Greg and Jared to ask, because we also did stuff with Melvin Van Peebles, which I think was the thing that kind of led us into that whole thing of the whole black exploitation situation.
Right.
And I don't know who got in contact with them, but they were like, look, what would you guys think about playing? We'll show the movie live, but instead of using the soundtrack from the movie, you guys will play. So we spent months, bro.
I know you did. I saw it.
With paper and just going through this stuff, and the timing had to be exactly right, because when we're looking at the movie, we have to begin and finish at the right thing, at the right time. So for months and months, we practiced and made sure that we had the music not only close to what Isaac was doing, Mr. Isaac Hayes was doing, but also to be able to input our own personalities into it.
Right.
So it was kind of a fusion of what Mr. Hayes was doing and what we were trying to put ourselves into. So we had to be true to the music, but at the same time, it had to be something that was authentic.
Yeah, real.
So that was months and months of practice, and then finally, we did it on the last day of Black Music Month, African Music Month. And it was so wild because the whole place was sold out.
Yeah.
And people were so close together.
Yeah.
But at that time, the COVID thing started to happen. And right after we did that gig, a week after, everything shut down.
I remember. Yep.
It was, I'm telling you, man, that was complete. I wouldn't even, serendipity you can use as a word. But I would say that the creator really wanted us to do this for whatever reasons, man. And I'm really glad, because the kind of joy that we got and the kind of joy that people felt, and for me, it was real special, because my mom was like in the fifth row. So like, I'm like playing guitar and waving to her, and she's waving back. So I know she could see me,
That's so awesome.
For me, it was just amazing. And it was always like, I've always prayed that my mom would see me play at a sold out place that was really, extreme. And every seat was so filled at the Apollo. I couldn't even get any other people in. Even they wanted to pay. It was definitely weird.
Yo, so check this out. How did people react when and I know you guys were promoting it for a long time, but when they actually got in there and they said, wow, we're going to see this fantastic, groundbreaking film, and Shaft, I always say it's a film because I don't want to put it in the movie category, not to slight anything anybody else says, just me personally, because it was the first one, even though Cotton Comes to Harlem was first, but Shaft was the one.
And even before that was Sweet Badass Song.
Yes.
By Melvin.
Melvin, that's right. They were ahead of their time. And and I'm getting goose pimples just thinking about it, man. How did people really react when they realized they were getting these two great, wonderful things combined, live music to the soundtrack with your own interpretations and this great film Shaft. When you were looking out, besides your mom, when you were looking out at the audience, were they every time? Because the audience, anybody that watched Shaft, we know when the songs are coming up. Right? So
and it was the same. Remember, it was the same.
It was the same thing. Okay, that's how they kind of did it. Yeah, that's really an extraordinary thing. And I remember because that next week we were coming. I was coming up to New York to start rehearsals with you guys, and that's when COVID hit. And I was so glad you got that in. I really was. It was beautiful.
You know, the thing that I will say about the audience is they were completely supportive from the first note to the last note. And they realized that what we were doing was a respectful thing and not trying to put any type of, we weren't disrespecting.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a tribute.
And they really supported us every note. I mean, it was amazing because the thing about it is that Shaft is really one of those iconic things that you can't really do wrong, because just like you said, everybody knows everything that's coming up, and people take it very closely because it's a part of their life from when they grew up. For me, it's like, when Shaft first came out, as you said, it was a film. Now it's almost a documentary, because really it's become that much of a part of our life that it actually is documenting attitudes, the things that we felt, the things that were going on the street at that time, the things that were normal at that time. Yep. So it's really was a jump back in time. And I mean, people came dressed a certain way. People came in cars that were from the, I mean, it was surreal.
It was a thing.
It was surreal. And everybody when I waved to the person, somebody on the third balcony, they waved back.
Yeah.
So I knew.
Yeah.
That it was connecting, and they didn't look at us as doing anything disrespectfully.
Yeah.
They knew that we had really a very humble attitude towards it, and we were doing it like a holy thing. We understood.
Yeah, I seen the rehearsal footage, man. You guys were working so hard. You were in there like 8-10 hours a day, and and working in sections and putting it together, man. And I thought to myself, especially you, guitar player, musician, extraordinaire. And I was like, I know he's crushing the wah-wah. I could feel it all the way down here in North Carolina. I could feel it, bro. As soon as it happened that night, I was like, okay, Andy's getting ready to go on, and I can hear it. You know what I'm saying? And that, which was the Barcades, if I'm not correct, right?
It was. Well, no.
Not all, but a few of the Barcades.
It was, yes.
Right.
Yes.
When that, wherever you were, and I remember because I was maybe 13 years old, and wherever you were when you heard that guitar, that signature wah coming on, and the hi-hat, chicka, 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 that is ingrained in my head. Isaac Hayes, the genius that he was, never really fully got the credit then until many years later when he got up in age. People realized what he did.
You know why? Because a lot of times you would keep on hearing that same wah-wah figure or that same type of thing happen on so many different records, and then you start to realize that what this guy has done is he wrote music at first, but then it became DNA.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally, it became DNA. I mean,
that's right.
The way how we started following and utilizing that as a template as to the way that we were going to play a lot of the wah-wah pedal stuff that we did in funk afterwards. I mean, Hendrix was doing it, but Hendrix actually and the actual guitarists from Shaft were friends. So Hendrix took it one way, the guy from Shaft took it another way. Yeah. And also, let's not forget the guy who did Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, God, yes.
He was another one.
The Funk Brothers, my goodness. I
mean, that stuff is without a doubt. And I just got to say this much. I want to give a big shout out to Ben Tyree and to Leon Grunbaum, because they charted out that whole thing that we did with Shaft. And it really is important because, I mean, they charted it out note for note, scratch by scratch. I mean, I can't give them enough thanks. So I really got to give a big shout out to Ben Tyree and Leon Grunbaum, who made this, a possibility for us to do very correctly.
Yeah. And like I said, I was watching the pictures and watching the rehearsals, and I really couldn't wait. And we're going to get into the COVID thing a little bit. But when that broke out and we started doing that, I could feel your pride in being a part of that thing. David Brooks is chiming in. I think he said, "Hello, what's up,
Hey,
Andre?"
what's happening, David?
Yeah,
Thank you,
people
man. Thank
will
you.
sign in now and then, and I'll let you know. I'll try to
Yeah,
read the
yeah. Thank
comment.
you. I
But yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
So I can feel your sense of pride, and as a New Yorker, and the film is based in New York, about New York. I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride myself, just
Great.
knowing you that were involved
Oh
in it.
man. Well,
I'm
thank you
telling
so
you, bro.
much.
I'm telling you, everything you guys do, whether I'm there or not, I always feel pride because we're connected like that, man. And I love you, man. You know how we
I
roll.
know, man. Yeah.
So
I love you
your
too.
family's from Trinidad, and you
And
grew up
Colombia.
listening in Colombia, and you grew up
Yeah.
listening to a lot of different styles of music,
Yeah.
calypso and jazz. So tell us a little bit about your early influences, hearing all of this stuff, Burt Bacharach, and all this stuff in your head.
My first introduction to music was my father playing what's called in Trinidad parang, which is a
Mm-hmm.
basic Spanish music that you play in Trinidad during Christmas time.
Right, right.
So, I mean, I heard from parang to calypso because my father played cuatro. In fact, it wasn't even a cuatro, it was a guitar. He took off the top two strings and just had the bottom four strings, and that's what he played. I grew up playing four strings.
Okay,
It wasn't
wow.
until I became like 15 that I was like, four strings just didn't seem like enough. So I then got the other two strings, and then I learned how to play a six string. But my first introduction into the guitar was playing a four-string guitar
Wow.
and
Okay.
playing the chords. And then when I first got my first electric guitar, which was given to me by my uncle Noli, I played with five strings because the six-string key broke.
Right, right.
And I mean, it was wonderful lessons because it showed us to be able to use anything that we had
Yep.
access to and
Yep.
make it work, you
Yeah.
know. And that was a great lesson because now it's like if I get caught without having certain tools that I'm used to having, I can usually assimilate and kind of figure out a way to make it work. It may not work as well as I'd like it to,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
out, I could do a fix out, you know what I mean? I could do a help desk type of troubleshoot. So I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with that, and then my mom is from Colombia, so I listened to a lot of like Celia Cruz and Fania All Stars and stuff like that. But Fania All Stars didn't come till later on in
Uh-huh.
the 70s. My aunt Yolanda was part of the Young Lords,
Okay.
so
Okay.
a lot of the Fania crew were involved with that. So when she would have the parties, 'cause she's a great cook still. So when she was doing the cooking, a lot of the young lords would come over to her house. Of course, we were always invited to the parties. So I was always exposed to those musics, hearing Tito
Mm-hmm.
Puente, Celia Cruz, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So seeing that this Spanish music was always a part of my life, as well as the West Indian music, rhythm
Mm-hmm.
was always a very heavy thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I learned how to play guitar, I was more interested. My father used to let me strum the guitar when I was about 6.
Right.
He
Right.
would
Right.
hold
Right.
the neck and he would tell me how to strum it. And after a while, my strumming was it was good enough that he would always say, "Hey, come out and strum the guitar." So rhythm to me, that's the reason why I feel that I always get along with drummers great. Because
Yeah.
I realize that when I play guitar, I always think about how can I accentuate what the drummer is doing because we've got to get that rhythm because rhythm is the first part of the communication in the music
Yep.
before the chords, before everything to me.
That's right.
That rhythm is first. And then you could connect the chords and put the icing on the cake, but you've got to have that rhythm. And the bass, the drums, and the rhythm guitar for me is the basis, the foundation of whatever songs are, because on top of that, then you could build your melodies and you could build your lyrics and stuff like that. Although I shouldn't say lyrics, I should say melodies, because lyrics are
Right.
brought up from another.
Right. 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 So
But they're
listening.
yeah. Mhm.
Oh no. No. Go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right. But as I started, my father was a big movie buff, so
Mm-hmm.
I would always be hearing like Casino Royale
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and I would love the show because I mean, how much can you really understand at 7? But the music flipped me out. I mean, it was just because, and it wasn't so much that I would listen to it. Go, oh man, listen what the violins are playing, or listen what this is playing. It brought me into a space that was outside of the house.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
I was able to get inside this other dimension, which I never really physically, verbalized it that. I just
Yes.
knew
Yes.
that when I listened to those musics, as well as Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass and stuff like that, and uh, uh, it just brought me out of where I was. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
from there, uh, also Carlos Jobim and stuff like that, because Carlos Jobim had a certain way of just like making a mood that was so transitionary that you just
Yeah.
kind of transition from where you're at to where he was at. And I like the ability of being able to control people's atmosphere.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you could be in a basement, you could be in a place that maybe you don't like. And through the music, if you close your eyes, you can transport into a place where you can
Yep.
get out of that room
Yeah.
just for a little while. And
Yep.
then, of course, when I heard James Brown, and that kind of flipped me out because I was like, I never heard such impact, such potency in rhythm. That was incredible to me. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
when I was in Brooklyn, a friend of mine, Hassan Niels, I had gotten into Ernie Isley, who was really my first guitar hero, besides Andrés Segovia.
Okay.
And I heard the way how he was holding notes, and I was like, wow, man, his notes are just like so. It's getting into me. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
even
Make you
tell you
cry.
what it was. It was deep
Yeah.
because I mean, Who's That Lady was the first thing. I mean, I heard Getaway and stuff like that, Layaway, but Layaway wasn't Ernie.
Yeah.
It was the guy, in fact, from Shaft.
Oh wow. Really? Wow.
Yes,
See, that's
and
deep.
also and
That's
also,
deep.
It's Your Thing. That's
Yes.
the guy from Shaft.
Okay. It's your whole thing. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Don't
Because Ernie was
don't
still young
don't
then. Yeah.
That's he's the guy who wrote that part.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went to a friend Hassan's house, and I was hanging out with Hassan and Gary Sharp and a couple of other people, G.C. Wells and stuff. So he was like, "Well, Ernie Isley's good, but he got it from this guy named Hendrix."
Right. Right.
I
Right.
was so ignorant of that. I kept on mixing up Jimi Hendrix with Eddie Kendricks because I was
Right.
into.
Right.
So it shows you how all those things kind of meld together. And then
Yeah.
once I really heard Hendrix,
Yeah.
then I understood the transport of how to get people out of their body
That's right. That's right.
into. I was very conscious, very cognizant of
You always have been.
transcendental
You always have been.
travel
Yep.
because of that. Because what happened is I listened to Pallygap from Rainbow
Mm-hmm.
Bridge, and that was it. I
Yeah.
could not hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah. I
changed my
feel
whole. Whatever was
perspective.
black and white was multicolor. I could see
Yeah.
colors inside colors. So I could see
Yes.
purple and see the different hues of purple and see the different hues of red. So now even a solid color wasn't just a color.
Yes.
It in
Exactly.
itself had a plethora
Yeah.
of
Dimensions. That's right. That's
dimensions,
right.
right? Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. We're hanging out today on Funk Music with Zack on IBM.TV. Our special guest is my space brother, Mr. André Lassalle. We've been knowing each other in this life and many other lives, and we just
And
chilling
many
out.
other loves, yeah.
And we're sitting here kicking it. He's gonna play for us in a little bit, but we're kicking it about his essence of how he takes this music, this thing we call music, and sends it out and sends out this healing, loving vibe. And you was talking about Ernie and Hendrix and the transference of one energy to the other so people can learn. And,
Yeah.
and Jeff definitely, we got on the subject about Shaft, but Hendrix, and for me, it was weird because my mom also took me to the Apollo, and I seen gospel shows growing up. And like you, I understood there was something bigger than myself when it came to this connection I had with
Right.
music. And when I first got a chance to have my own record collection, and like you, I heard this man, and I grew up with older nieces and nephews, so they always had the latest thing every weekend. They
Right,
go by
right,
the
right.
45.
Mhm.
And they put on James Brown and
Yeah,
all the Motown stuff. And I was like, I love this stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
But what changed me is when I heard Edgar Winter and the White Trash.
Oh my gosh, I still have Live at the Apollo. I still have that up.
When I heard
imagine them. Imagine being at the Apollo and seeing an albino with a group
exactly,
come
exactly.
up and wreck thing.
When I heard that, and then
Rick
at the
Derringer,
same
man.
time,
Woo.
yes, Rick Derringer, that's right, and Johnny Winter. When I heard that, and at the same time, that next day, I heard Maggot Brain. A guy named Howard Beeman, my mentor, took me over to this guy's house who had Maggot Brain, and I said, "Oh, so we can play loud."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, so we can play loud." So that was for me, and then obviously Funkadelic and all of that came. But man, when I heard Live at the Apollo, and I was like, okay, these white boys coming up there, and they're albino, they can't stand the light, so everything got to be kind of dim. And they came out, and I heard that album, and I had heard Grand Funk Railroad, and it was cool, but I was always seeking for volume when I was a kid. I loved the stuff that James did in Motown, but I was always seeking that next level volume. And when I heard, again, 3+3, and Ozzy Brothers live at the college. I think it was Kent State. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't Kent State. It was but they had did For Dead at Ohio. But they had did a live disc. Right. Yes, and wherever they were, I heard that, and then I was like, okay, guys are now playing volume with the same chops and feel. And to me, getting back to your connection with that, that's what kind of motivated me to say that's where I belong. Because when I would put that stuff on, I would literally travel and leave and have these out-of-body experiences, man. So I just wanted to add that, man. Again, here we are with André Lassalle on Funk Music with Zack on IBM.TV live. So y'all need to check this brother out. David Brooks is chiming in. He's got some really nice comments, and he's saying some really great things. So later on, you were 16 years old, and someone or somehow you came across Bitches Brew. Tell us about that.
Funny enough, my mom was she worked with this guy who she ended up getting a fella who I called my father, Jack Nackhamson. And he was it was my 16th birthday, and he asked his son, what's a good thing for me to buy Andy? He plays guitar, and his son said, buy him Bitches Brew. So I was like, I got the album, looked at it, it was very almost like Picasso type of vibe.
Yes, avant-garde. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like going, wow, this is some surrealistic stuff. So I put it on, and I didn't quite understand it at first because to me it was so unorthodox.
Yeah.
What I heard was jazz. This didn't seem to have any real connection to it until I realized that what jazz was is really being able to do spontaneous stuff.
Right.
To me, that's what jazz is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a spontaneous thing. I mean, now you got written charts and all of this stuff, but I remember that at the beginning. So when I kind of heard that, it kind of showed me that there was no limits.
Yes.
So that started to seep its way into what was going on as far as I had already been playing a lot of funk, because they used to call me wah-wah, because that's all I did. I used to walk around with the guitar and a wah-wah pedal.
Right.
I had one of the earliest wah-wah pedals from way back when they used to be sold at the pawn shops on New Lots Avenue. I mean, really, man. And so, everybody from way back knows me as wah-wah, including John Willis. They know me as wah-wah. And, so it kind of seeped its way in, and then all of a sudden it was like when I heard people like Funkadelic, which came later for me. I'm a late Funkadelic guy. My first thing was Take It to the Stage. I hadn't even heard Cosmic Slop or Maggot Brain, stuff like that. My first introduction was Take It to the Stage. And then I started to understand that you could take all of these elements of spontaneity and put it into funk and put it into rock and stuff like that. So Bitches Brew was definitely one of those road openers as to seeing all the possibilities.
Yeah. When I first got into the jazz thing, I didn't get into it as a player, because as a drummer exclusively back then, and I wasn't really into bass back then, I couldn't grab what they were doing because I was so used to that. You know what I'm saying? And unless you grew up and just automatically jumped into the jazz thing. It was harder. Now, a lot of the older cats that I knew were doing the jazz stuff, you know, around my hometown, this and that. And they were guitar players and drummers and bass players that could play everything. But to me, I was always like, let me find the one thing that I'm really good at and try to focus on that, because there was so much. You and I came up in the same era. There was so much music out there. This is why we're still able to create today, because we still have all of that knowledge and all of that musical stuff in our head, right? I said, well, I can't feel, and I don't know how to read music. So I said, I can't feel what they're doing, right, in the jazz thing, although I felt it here.
Right.
I didn't feel it here with the timing. And when I look back now and I think about it, what really sucked me back in my second time around is when jazz fusion came out. Because when jazz, go ahead, go for it, go. I'm gonna get you. Go.
Now, Ben, Bitches Brew was cool, but In a Mountain Flame and Birds of Fire was it.
Yeah.
When I finally heard, I remember looking one night at Don Kirsh's rock concert in Brooklyn. And this dude comes up with this double neck guitar, dressed in white, playing the wildest stuff. I mean, just like going completely, just controlled berserk. That's about the best way that I was able to see it. I remember my poor mom. This had, because it came on from 11:30 at night to 1 o'clock
in the morning.
Yeah. So this dude came on like about 12 o'clock, and it excited me so much that for some reason, which I've never done again, I was like, Mom, come on, look at this. And she's like, yo, dude, what? You know, so she thought some kind of emergency probably was happening, and she came out and looked at it and looked at me, and I'm like, look at that. And she just probably thought I had lost it at that point. But that was the first thing that motivated me that much. And from that point on, that's when I was able to understand a lot more of jazzy stuff. Because I'm still not good with like I listen to Coltrane, I listen to Eric Dolphy, I listen to a lot of those people, but to play it is not something I can really do. But the fusion was the element of that funk and the rhythm and the drop and the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever. There was some kind of root on the one again. And once, as James Brown told Bootsy, once you can catch the one, that's where fusion jazz, became something that became inherent now. I can understand it. I can grasp it. I can relate to it much better. And something that I could pick up my guitar and immediately start to.
Exactly. And that's how I felt about the Herbie stuff, because Herbie came out, with Man-Child and all that stuff. And then, obviously Return to Forever. And it was then that I said, okay, these drummers are still jazzing it, but they're in some kind of pocket. And that's when I was able to go back and see where they got their stuff from. Then I realized there was a guy named Tony Williams, a guy named Art Blakely. You know what I'm saying? Then I went back, Art Tatum and, those guys, and Tyner McCoy. And I realized now I see the progression, because I had knew Louis and I had knew Fats Waller and I had knew King Oliver, because my dad raised me on all that stuff. So then at that point, I started putting the blocks in place to see how the house was built, And it's so funny, man, because we both had the same reaction. Yeah, jazz fusion.
Without a doubt. And it's funny. I remember like when we were in the neighborhood, because at this, and that's the thing that I think a lot of kids are missing out on today. Because when I was a kid, the way people were playing music, not video games, because that was how we had fun.
Right. That's what
my set of people didn't play sports. We played music. That was the thing.
Yep.
So there were jam sessions constantly, because this is the way how you met new people. And you could not go to one jam session and not know Chameleon.
Yes.
I'm bringing it up about Herbie Hancock. Because there were certain songs that if you didn't know, you were like, yo, sit down.
Right. Yep.
Like you had to know dome, 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 the dome, dome. I mean, so those things became staples. I mean, those things became like requirements to get into jam sessions. To be able to meet other people. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Those jam sessions. And before, again, we're hanging out with André Lassalle, and we just chilling. And here we are on IBM.TV, Funk Music with Zack. Who's got it better than us? Peace and blessings, my brother. I love you with all my heart.
I love you too, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So getting back to that, and before you actually play for us in a minute, those basement jam sessions. Tell me about some of those and how you met Kevin and John and, Mark and, Pearl and Prez. How did that whole Queens connection ball start as far as you were concerned meeting them cats?
Well, first of all, John and myself were a Brooklyn connection.
Okay.
All right. I lived in a place. He lived in. I think what's called the Linden Projects, and I lived in Fairfield, which was another set of housings that were in Brooklyn. We met as a basement. We playing with a guy named Hassan Niels. We met each other through him, and then John came up with this idea. It's like, yo, man, I want to put together a group, and the name of the group, he said, I wanted it to be Gemsa. I was like, wow, that sounds interesting. What does Gemsa mean? He says Gemsa is John, Eric, Michael, Sherman, and Andy.
Right.
Great. And they called me Jiva Sakti. That was John's thing for me, Jiva Sakti, which I kind of embodied, I guess, as being a peaceful guy or whatever the case is.
You totally are, bro.
So the guy who was our drummer was a guy named Sherman, the S in Gemsa. He, for some reason, and I don't remember why, dropped out. And then John says, hey, man, I got this other fellow who I really like, a good dude. His name is Kevin Harrington. And that's how Kevin Harrington, at least how I got to meet him, with Ronnie Small. Ronnie was, and that was another thing. Gemsa, we used to practice in Ronnie's basement.
Yeah, okay.
We ended up playing in Ronnie Small's basement. And I'm just realizing now that Ronnie was not part of that originally Gemsa thing because, again, John, Eric, Michael, Sherman, and Andy. So I don't know who the heck was playing bass. I really don't remember now. But I remember that Gemsa, the basis of what we know is, is what us guys relate to as Gemsa, was that thing that was done in Ronnie's basement, and that's how I met John, or that's how John and myself got me to meet Kevin. From that, we met Warren McRae, Julio Herrera, people like that who were really part of the Jamaica funk crew, which I had not even identified as that. I just knew they lived in Queens. At that time, I wasn't even driving. I was taking the bus back and forth. So the guys from Queens would come to Brooklyn because we were practicing next door to a guy named Morris, the trumpet player for Crown Heights Affair.
Right.
Literally. He would come over, him all looking like a pimp, and kind of looking at us play and go like, yeah, you guys are all right, but you need practice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's what they used to tell us, yeah.
But you need practice. So we took it to heart as like, yo, dude, let's get better at this because we really respect Morris, you know, and
yes.
And so we grew up with Brass Construction, with Crown Heights Affair. These were guys from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Arthur Raines, who I will always shout out. I mean, we had some of the most amazing cats that will never be heard, as well as a lot of them that will be heard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why we got to carry that torch,
Without a doubt. And something, that's the reason why I always try to give them credit as to the reason people go, man, I like what you do. And I'm like, well, I'm on the shoulder of a lot of other people.
That's right. And it's good that you always say that. Obviously, we're here now doing what we do now. But, I always tell people, listen, man, I got to pay homage to the cats that came before me because they're the ones that kept me straight and narrow. They're the ones that taught me how to play. Yes, and they were hard on us, which was good. They made sure if you're going to play, that's right. If you're going to play something, play it the right way, and continue your craft, man. And so that's mad cool. I'm gonna tell a quick story how you and I met.
Yes, we
met because Clayton Harding's band Deep Pocket needed 2 subs,
right?
A drummer and a guitar player, and we met. We were the first ones on time in the rehearsal studio in Manhattan on 34th Street, right? So. You were already there. Then I came in a little bit after. And I was like, hey, what's up?
I remember when you came. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, hey, what's up? How you doing? And, you was mad chill or whatever, right? And you said, yeah, you said, I don't really know much. I said, me neither, bro. I said, what's up? And I think we had a gig that next Saturday. We were going to D.C., right, to play with the Clones, right? And so you and I were like, well, we're the subs and we're here on time. And where's the rest of the band? But your vibe was so cool. And then we started talking, right? And I was like, wow, you play with your thumb. Yeah, that freaked me out. I was like, you don't use a pick enough, you just play with your thumb.
I play
And
with
I
a
said,
thumb's pick. Yeah.
yes. So yes. So I was fascinated, and then I heard you play, and like you said, the colors in between the colors, I was like, this is a bad boy. You know what I'm saying? And then, as fate would have it, it circled back around to when John came in Nappy Head, and then you came back in. You already knew those guys. That's what made Nappy Head work, because you knew everybody already. That was a godsend. That was the weirdest thing,
John told me about Nappy Head.
Right.
And I had already played, I've been playing with the Clones of Funk in Maryland back and forth. And I said, man, it'd be great to like get into a funkadelic type band here in New York, specifically in Long Island. And so John was telling me, at that time you had John Purvis.
Yes.
So I had been asking to play with the band, and it was like, nope, there was no way I could do it because you guys already had your thing fulfilled. And I think that John Purvis, for some reason, decided that it was, he had other things that he had to. I don't know.
And he was teaching. Yeah, he was teaching.
Right.
He was a teacher. Yeah,
and that's how John came to me and said, "Would you like to come and play?" And then that's how that.
Because I knew you, and when he said Andy, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know Andy," because they were surprised that I knew you. I was like, "Oh yeah, Andy and I played together, Deep Pocket,"
Right, right.
And John said, "Well, does he have to rehearse?" I was like, "No, just tell him to show up to the gig."
Right. Yeah. And I was like, "What key?" And I was like, "Just tell me what key."
Yeah.
And once I hear, and John and myself have such a good connection. That I could listen to what John is playing, and always one thing between John and myself, we always iced each other's cake. We never clashed. We always heard each other play, because him and myself used to do many hours at his house, playing just him and myself. He still has cassette tapes of us.
Wow.
And we understood how we could play to lock rather than play over each other. We always listened to each other. We always respected each other. So that respect came out in the way how we played together, our relationship.
Cool. So speaking of playing, man, you're going to hit us with something today. What are you going to play for us today?
Well, because it's such a funk thing, I really wanted to, instead of play my music, I just wanted to play to a backing track of Maggot Brain. And just kind of,
God bless.
just to,
God bless.
Because it was something that we can relate to.
Yes.
And, to me, I just felt that it was a good track, and I felt that it was apropos to this whole funk show.
Oh, man, no doubt, man. Yo, André Lassalle, Maggot Brain, P-Funk Heads, Nappy Head Folk Army Heads, IBM.TV family. I love y'all. You see I'm sporting my gear right here. You know how it goes, Afterglow, baby. Yo, go for it, brother.
I remember, if the guitar is too low or too loud, just kind of give me a look. And
all right, you good, bro. I'm so excited. Bro,
Hello.
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, man. You had me in tears, man.
Oh man.
Let me tell you. Donna Sneed said, beautiful. David Brooks was
Oh, thank
chiming
you.
in. Hi, Donna. Love you, David Brooks. What you do and how you painted. And Otis Hogg said, yes, sir.
Thank you,
What
everyone. I really appreciate
it's
it.
just you're such a beautiful spirit and gift to the whole thing.
Oh, thank you.
That we call sound, music, energy, and your gift of love that you and your guitar have is unprecedented, unmatched. Obviously paying tribute to Eddie Hazel, obviously paying tribute to Michael Hampton and André Lassalle. You're on that Mount Rushmore. You are what I always say you guys are. You're a beast. And sometimes I pinch myself when I have you and John Willis in my band at the same time. Y'all are there for me whenever I need to. So reaching down into the depths of the soul of that particular piece, you represented well. It definitely took me out. As soon as you hit the first three notes, I'm flying with you. And that's what this whole thing is about on Funk Music with Zack on Sundays, is to reach down to someone's soul and make them feel better. And brother, let me tell you, André Lassalle, you are by far on fire. You know what I mean?
Oh, man,
and I know you do all different styles of music and all that other stuff, and it's great. And I'm glad you chose that particular piece because it means a lot. That song means so much to so many people worldwide, obviously. And it's still today, means what it means when it first came out. You know what I mean? And you're an amazing, electrifying guitar player, man. And
thank you, man.
Yeah, man. And if you have one thing to say to a lot of people out there right now, and we're going to have you back on for part 2 of this interview as well, when you have the time in between your sessions and stuff. Because these interviews go so well, we get off on one thing. We always have to do a part 2. Right. So believe me, we're already working on that. We'll get in touch and talk. But if you had something to say to the young people, that was important just to give them hope and inspiration, what would it be?
Be compassionate.
Compassionate?
Compassion, as I said before, is hip.
Yeah.
Be hip.
Yeah.
We have a lack of compassion that's happening around.
Yeah, we do.
We have a lack of respect. Understand that the energy of one's note comes from the intent that they give it.
Yeah, we do.
The potency of one's music comes from character.
Yeah.
Have strong character and don't let people make you hate. That is the best thing that I could say to anybody who's young. Don't allow anything in this world. You can hate things. You can hate things that are happening, but don't become a hateful person. Love, because I'm telling you, and be compassionate, because this is trying to pull people out of a compassionate way of life. And we cannot survive with each other.
That's right.
Unless we're compassionate with each other and respectful to each other. So if you want to become a better musician, make sure you have good character, make sure you have good intent, and that'll make you a better musician. More than you're playing, more than you're practicing, more than what you listen to and all that other stuff. It'll guide you.
Yeah. Yo, that's beautiful.
Yourself.
That's beautiful. That's well said. I know Mark wanted to jump on before we say goodbye. I know Mark has a question for you. I can feel him itching back there. So go ahead, my producer, Mark Lee. What's up, bro?
Hey, how you doing? I just had to say, Andre, that was some amazing playing.
I'm
like Zack. You moved my heart and everything because I was definitely moved by that music. I've actually come out of a musical background myself. Zack knows that I was raised with my parents starting a radio station back in the mid-'70s. So I've heard funk music, R&B music, and all kinds of music like that all my life and everything like that. So you definitely moved me as well. And like I said, I was hearing you talk about a lot of folks that I'm very familiar with. I heard you reference Miles. I heard you reference Isaac Hayes. I had the pleasure of seeing him at the Bull Durham Blues Festival. So just all of those great musicians that you are part of the legacy of is just moving to my heart. So, like I said, I just was
that humbles me
by that and very much moved by that music that you provided with us. So, like I said, I know Zack was moved. I was also moved as well. So I just want to share that with you. That you're an amazing musician, and I was just like blown away. I do have to teach you about something though, because I was on SoundCloud because Zack had asked me to just research a little bit about your music and things of that nature. And you had a song called Can't Figure Out Crazy. So I wanted to know a little bit about that song because I've had some times in my life where I've dealt with crazy in my life and things of that nature. I know Zack, a lot of us have. So I just want to know, where was that song at? Was that like a relationship thing that you were going on where you just couldn't figure out the crazy, or what was it about?
It was weird because what happened was I wrote the music with a guy named Aaron Whitby, who works with who's Martha Redbone's husband. And what happened was I came up with this music that to me felt really like almost like just real emotional type of thing. And I have a friend of mine named Roland Gindler who writes lyrics. And he said, I said, dude, listen to this and tell me what you come up. And he came up with Can't Figure Out Crazy. And I was like, wow, dude. Because we were all going through like crazy relationships that we couldn't quite figure out. You know, you're trying to get a foothold, and every single time you think you got a foundation, you find out that it's like slippery mud. So you end up falling on your face again. So then I became very good friends with Sherry Scott, who was the original singer for Earth, Wind, and Fire. She did their first hit.
Where have all the flowers gone?
No, it was something about
Time.
No, love. Something love. I can't remember what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, so she ended up being my godmother in Palo Mayombe. And then I asked her to do the vocals, and she just really went for it. And she was, it kind of grew a life of its own. I haven't heard the song in a while, but I'm really flipped out that that's the song you would pick, because it was something that I didn't really put too much. It was so spontaneous. You know what I mean? It was one of those things. But I'm really glad that it touched you. I mean, you know, and besides, it's a relatable issue.
Yeah, it was definitely relatable.
We've all been there. You know what I mean?
We've all been down that path.
Have we? The fact that we're still alive and smiling is freaking amazing. I mean, believe me.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that. I know we've got to get to our roundtable discussion. We would love for you to stick around, Andre, if you can.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, so, but one of the things I was going to ask you before we bring in some of our roundtable folks and everything, because we do that right after Zack's show and everything. But if you could talk a little bit about the connection, because y'all were talking about jazz and funk. I'm also a blues head, so I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about the connection to blues and you and everything, because I'm a very big blues artist, and I could hear some blues riffs in some of your music as well.
Well, you know, the first thing that when I first picked up the guitar, I used to play at church with my cousin, a guy named Tony Humphreys, who's a DJ now also. And he played drums and I played guitar, and our parents used to bring us to church. Our grandparents used to bring us to church all the time. And what happened was, when I was learning how to play guitar, I learned how to play certain things. And the first thing that I learned how to play was, and spontaneously, because I guess it was something that felt inherent, was the blues. I'd always been into B.B. King, always been into, that was the main guy, B.B. King. But then as I got into B.B. King, got into the blues, then came Freddie King, Albert King, Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, all those people. But blues is the foundation of everything that I play, because it's a structure that is so based in simplicity. But at the same time, because it's so based in simplicity, that if you don't have a way to get around it, it'll become redundant. So it was very important for me through blues to understand how to play the same chord progression over and over again, but yet at the same time open it up differently every time that we played a solo or did, you know, whatever we did with it. So it wouldn't become so like, oh my gosh, here we go again. You know what I mean? So the blues has always been the foundation of everything that I played. So for me, the blues is, and I got to play with Buddy Guy also, which was deep. By accident. Believe me, I've had things happen to me by accident that I swear if I tried to do it, it would never have happened.
Cool. You here we are with André Lassalle, my friend, my peaceful brother. Mark Bass says it don't get any better than that. He's chiming in.
Oh man, thank you.
We're getting ready to jump in, sign off from one show, Funk Music with Zack, and jump into the other one, this roundtable that we do. Andre has decided to stick around with us and chill for a little bit. Again, you can find him on Facebook and you can friend him there. His music is everywhere. And if you've been in New York or you've been around the world, he's traveled with numerous bands. You'll see him playing with just about everybody, including the Nappyhead Funk Army. This man is amazing spirit, beautiful, peaceful, loving. One of the best sons that I've ever seen, loves his mom to death. I know his family, and believe me, it would be worthwhile if you ever see a show bill and you see Andre's name on it. It would be worthy for you to go see him perform. as well as with us when we finally do get to go out. So, Andy, I want you to meet, all my road dogs over here. Lynn Shepard,
Hello,
one of our
everyone.
sponsors. We got Dr. Tawana Anthony at the bottom. And holding the middle square today, our boss, Kim Calhoun, and also Jim, on the right side hanging out. Another one of our sponsors. And all these great people are what make IBMTV family what it really is, about peace and love. You exemplify that. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. And we're just going to sit back and kick it, and this is how we roll. So, welcome, guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you, Mark,
hello, everyone.
For your job, and y'all just do what y'all do.
Andre, it was great.
Oh, thank you so much. I really am.
Andre, that was amazing. I do want to get into the discussion. I'm going to bring in a discussion I think that we all can get into, and it was something that Jay, actually, you tackled with Zack and everything, and that's that. We definitely need more of a peaceful vibe in the world. And you talked about a little bit about your own religious beliefs and things of that nature. I actually work at the Hayti Center. It's one of my places that I work at, and they've actually got a salute to some of the Haitian gods and things of that nature. We definitely know about those rituals and know a little bit about that and things of that nature. But I just wanted if you could talk about, because me and Jim have had this conversation as well, about how a lot of the messages of the world are really centered around peace and love. And unfortunately, the extremists get too caught up in some of the things that go on. And that's on all religions. They have both the peaceful Eastern religions as well as the Western religions, but I do think that we sometimes get too caught up in the negative aspects of spirituality. So I would love to hear from you, Andre, about the positive aspects of spirituality, and then we'll hear from the rest of the folks as well, including our boss Kim and Tawana as well, because definitely love to hear from you if you could just express a little bit about the positive nature of spirituality and how that addresses you.
I always feel that the center of all spirituality is intent. The intent is what will take us to that place of extreme negative or extreme positive. It's like, the one thing that I had to come to understand that there are people who are channeled towards peace and there are people who channel towards war. And the one thing that we understand, especially in Orisha, is that God is not all good or all bad. What God is to us is balance. Creator of all, negative and positive. So that this way we can build up and understand that you can't appreciate beauty without what is called ugliness. You can't appreciate love without understanding hate. So we need both of those opposites in our life to be able to understand where we stand, what we are here for. I am a person of peace. I choose that. That's something that is my choice. Not only is it inherent, I've had many opportunities to go into that negative energy and had every right to do it and had every reason to follow that. But this is something that I feel is something that will benefit, because it's not just about me, it's about the universe. I have to be what I feel is positive in this universe so that this way I can make that direction towards the things that make me feel and hopefully other people feel good. But I realize this also. I can't make everybody feel good. Not everybody's going to feel what I feel. But to me, what a religion or what spirituality is about is the intent of the person who is following whatever path that they're going to follow. That for me is the center intent. And for me, my intent is compassion.
I agree with you.
The way I speak, the way I play, the way how I love people, the way how I am loved. And I always try to do for others what I would like.
I agree with you, and I definitely think that that's what it's all about. It's all about compassion and things of that nature and that peaceful vibe. And by the way, I know that everybody here would just, as I said earlier, moved by your music. Kim, did you get a chance to hear the music? Were you blown away by it? And I was also wanting to hear if you could talk about the mission of IBM.TV so that Andre knows that we also are about compassion and peace and trying to get this universal message across.
Well, as I always say, music is the wine that fills the empty glass, right? And Andre, you do a great job of filling a lovely glass of wine. The mission of IBM TV, Nick and I started all of this to close the gap between poverty and sustainability.
Right on.
Right? and because our world is just too full of poverty right now. And so the biggest gap we always felt was literacy, financial literacy. But out of our mission, as you speak, out of our intent, we ended up evolving IBMTV. And IBMTV, we decided, was going to be that outlet for all kinds of wonderful, great quality content that inspires positive thinking, the power of it, and unites people globally, right? So that we can educate, so that we can, help gain from each other's knowledge, and just spread the good news. And that's what it's been about. And so far, every bit of content that we've been able to pull in, like Mark and Zack and Lynn. Well, Lynn's our sponsor, but he's become our content too. But thanks to Jim, who has always been there. And of course, I could not do this without Ankit. And then we've got Wynn, who's always saving the day. And then people like Dr. Anthony, who say, you know what, you guys have got something going on there. I kind of want to be part of your team. So we're able to grow this and get the message out to more and more people. And that's what we want to do. We want to serve the community that doesn't get served.
Amen.
Right?
Right on.
And that is, I think, the best mission that we can do right now, not just for God, but for humanity. I think we should do for God, but humanity, I think God wants us to do that. And I think you're right. So search for peace. Sometimes we have to face war, but face these things without fear, right? Come prepared, learn from each other, unite with each other, and support each other. And we're working on a music marathon weekend where we want to raise money to give back to the musicians and artists of the world who are suffering right now. Because a lot of people, they forget about how great and wonderful the music and art is in our lives, and they've quit giving to it during times of hard economic, situations and crises. But it's music and art that heal us, and we forget that. But music and artists have to eat too, right? The artists have to eat. And this is why I tell people we all have a purpose. We all need to eat, and we just need to learn how to unite that again. But that's why I am thankful that everybody's here, and we show up on Sundays to talk about all of these great and wonderful things that need to be done. Right, guys?
That's right. That's
we have our own sign language, Dr. Andre. And, I think Dr. Anthony is going to catch on, but we have this little bit of sign language. You'll see us, that. I'm going to pass it, if you don't mind, to Ankit to define who he is, but what our sign language is.
So basically, this is for strength. This is for unity and one world. This is how we greet. This is how we love. This is live and let live, and also L for learning as well. This is the way we hug, and anyone can blink your eyes as well for other gestures.
I have one.
Right on. I like that.
Manifesting.
And this one is for our spiritual.
Manifestation.
This is our spiritual manifestation for praying and manifesting our prayers. So, thank you. Ankit is the one who keeps the glue. He glues us all together. He makes sure that everything is smooth. He's the creator of all the wonderful intros and outros. He is an artist.
He's our Iron Man.
Yeah, he's our Iron Man.
It's all about people.
But I think it's nice because of the way we pull together, and the purposes, like you mentioned, Andre, of course, are very, very important. Our intent is very, very important. The outcome from that, people don't ever think about what is the next layer of the intent, what's the outcome, and we need to start thinking about that. Our leaders need to start thinking about that. So I missed the part of the interview of where are you located?
I'm in Long Island, New York.
Ooh, Zach, you know a lot of people in New York.
Well, that's where I'm from. That's my home. That's where I'm from.
I know that, but
I've only been in North Carolina for 6 years.
No, don't do that, Jim. Don't do that.
Now we have to be fair here.
I've only been in
Sorry,
New York,
man.
and I've only been in North Carolina for 6 years. I'm from New York, so that's where all my guests, a lot of my guests, will come from. And plus, just living here now, there's a lot of transplanted New Yorkers here, but not a lot of transplanted musicians here. Most of the musicians in North Carolina are homegrown. So what I have to do, I don't really vibe with a lot of people here because they never really accepted me as part of their music community. I played with 3 bands here, right? And I just always kept to myself, stayed humble, keep it low. I make the money, and then I go about my business. But my real musical family, which is why my heart sometimes is saddened, is because they're all there in Philly, DC, and New York. That's where I live. But I think Jim had something he was going to say before.
Yeah, thank you very much, Zach. First off, I wanted to say that I just tip my hat to you, Zach, because you've introduced us to people that I never would have known, never would have met, and including Jasmine and Andre. And I wanted to speak to what he just said about his life in a spiritual fashion. I loved it. I really resonated with me, and I'd like to tell you about my aspect of my thinking of looking at a battery. There's a positive end and there's a negative end, and without both, you don't get energy. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Very well said.
I thought you were making a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even along those same lines, all the great changes that have happened in our society can't happen without the different kinds of energies that go on and everything. You could have had the changes we had in civil rights without both a Malcolm and a Martin. Even in India, where Ankit is from, you needed a Gandhi, but you also needed the forces that were more of the in the streets kind of element of what was going on in India as well. So you definitely have to have all of that happening in order for these changes to be had and everything. I do have to bring in a little bit of another topic that we love to talk about here on IBM.TV, because Tawana gave me a shout out that her mom was making a comment about red beans and rice, and I do like my Caribbean food and my food that is Creole and Cajun in nature. Don't worry, I like my Jamaican food too, and I know that Trinidad is very similar as well. And you did mention that your roots, Andre, were from Trinidad and Tobago. So could you share a little bit about those roots of yours as well? Because like I said, you grew up and apparently met Zack as a kid and grew up in New York, but you also seem very proud of your roots. I actually went on your Facebook page and saw that you had gone, or at least had some sort of interaction with your homeland. So if you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, that Trinidad influence on me is very big because my father was a player, was a quattro player. So for me, that was something that I always leaned towards. And him being from Trinidad, always had calypso type music and was very Trinidadian, even up to the time that my father died. And he lived here since 1959. He never lost his accent. So it was something that was so inherent in him that it never went away. And there was something that I always felt was something that I was drawn to, as far as the pride of the people and the way how they were able to communicate, and the way how they were able to express themselves, but do it in a way that was so honest about where they came from. And there was always some kind of ingredient that really showed you that that's where all the influence came from. To me, the way how I eat, the way how I think, and all those things, I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist and as a Baptist. All this stuff was in the West Indies religion, and I grew up in Grand Cayman also. In the West Indies, religion is like a social skill. So this was the type of thing that I brought back with me as far as the way how deeply I feel about spiritual things, because I was raised that way. It was such an important part of it, and then to be able to insert it in everything that we do, as far as the way that we speak, the way how we interact with people, the way how we play. It's got to always be given. We're a conduit, and that was the reason why I always feel like my playing is a conduit of a greater force. I'm a burn victim, so my hands have been burned. I shouldn't be playing.
Yes,
I
I remember that.
I'm a burn victim, and the fact that I could still play shows me that there's something. And when I got burnt, both my hands were completely burnt, except on this hand, the whole hand was dark like charcoal, except for these 4 fingers that I play with. On this hand, this whole hand was completely burnt except for my thumb, and I used my thumb for a pick. That was it. I have pictures of it. It doesn't even make sense. But
Yeah,
that's
I
what made
remember.
me. That's what gave me and let me realize.
Yeah, because I came.
What I'm doing with music is bigger than me.
Yeah, because when I was actually playing next to the hospital you were in, and on my break, I came over to see you.
Sure
and I
did.
asked you what had happened. And I'll never forget that. I was like, man, don't worry. You already got this. You're going to be all right. And I know at the time it was stressful. You were worried about it. But I remember seeing how you were burned. And it was not a easy thing for you to overcome. But you always knew, like you said, you were going to do it anyway. But yeah, I remember when that happened, and I was like, wow, you know. And then we were all saying, yo, you hear about Andy's in the hospital. And the last thing everybody knew, we figured car accident, whatever, and he's like got burned. And we was trying to figure, how that happened. But long story short, here you are. So that's a beautiful thing.
Well, Zach, do you think if I burned my hands, I could play like him?
No.
Well, I don't know, but I don't want you to do it.
Okay.
I'll tell you something. I'm a human being, right? If one human being can do it, any human being can do it. This is something we're all a conduit to. We have the same energy beginning. We have the same foundation. We just have to accept.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything is possible.
Yep. Dr. Anthony, I'm curious to hear what you've got to say about all the conversation you're hearing about the spiritual connection and things of that nature. So we'd love to hear your take on what you're hearing in the conversation. So if you'll chime in, we would love to hear that. And by the way, I am holding you and your mom to delivering some red beans and rice here to North Carolina.
I'm on the next flight.
She needs to stop in on her way home.
I will. As for me, I am into the spirituality and the peace and things, but I heard you say something about, extremists and things like that. I had talked about this on Zack's show, actually. I think anger is good. It's how you channel your anger in terms of your outcomes with your anger. For example, with Black Lives Matter, a lot of people are angry at the fact that, Black and brown people are being, murdered and killed in the street. That's a good anger. But how you channel it after you become angry determines the outcome. We don't want people going out, burning down buildings. We don't want people going out, committing robberies and, things like that. But let that anger charge you and motivate you to go vote. Help people get ready to vote. Send letters to your congressman. Write the president. Do all these things based off of your anger. And I think once the people get rid of that particular anger, I think the peace will come. But until they go through the 7 stages of whatever they're going through, or the anger, the denial, and all of that, there will be no peace. So for me, I think people need to express themselves in a way that, allows them to speak, hear them, hear their word. Because from what I'm seeing is a lot of people feel like their word has not been heard, and they're not being heard. They're not being taken serious. So that anger right there, channel it into something more positive, into something instead of something more destructive. And, I feel like, the peace will come. I mean, I'm from Louisiana. I grew up Southern Baptist, and now I'm non-denominational. My mom is a Baptist. My dad is non-denominational. And, we share, that cultural experience. And as you were saying, Andre, everything is about your culture and, how you grew up and, what you experienced. So it's the same with me. A lot of things that I do is based off of what my grandmother and my mom instilled in me as a little child, and how I focus, today. And I use this example all the time. My mom is a high school dropout. She finished the 9th grade, and that's it. But my mom is more educated when it comes to, certain things than people who have, degrees. So I always tell people education is not about, possessing a degree. Education is about, your common sense and, how you process things and, how you navigate through life. And so I learned so much from them that, a book couldn't have taught me. So that right there within itself, basically turned me into the person that I am today, into the strong Black woman that I am today, but based off of their experiences and my experiences and what, you know, I was taught as a child growing up. So I think, you know, culture is everything. And, you know, I wouldn't change my upbringing for anything in the world. Louisiana has a very diverse population. And a lot of people, when I'm up north, they're like, you know, well, you know, Louisiana is very racist. Well, I didn't experience that here. Everybody, you know, pretty much, you know, accepted, you know, everybody for who they are and things like that. I mean, I have, you know, white friends. My mom have white friends. And we actually just went to go see some yesterday. And I told them that I was going to come visit them in Colorado because they're leaving here and moving to Colorado and things like that. So I've always been in a very diverse situation. It wasn't like a one size, you know, fits all type thing. So I've had the privilege of, you know, experiencing, you know, different cultures, different races, you know, and things like that. So and with that, I think that helps me today when I'm dealing with, you know, my students who come from, you know, Iran, Iraq, you know, the Latin American countries, the African countries, and things like that. But the root of it was my culture and my upbringing. That was key.
Yep.
Well
Is
said.
anyone else freaked out by your shirt? Is anyone else freaked out by your?
There she goes. We have do for demons too. So the do for demons.
Look, I got the makeshift office going on in here right now, so I had to choose a spot that I could, you know, set my computer up. I got my computer on a box. We have construction going on in the house, and it was so hot outside. I couldn't sit outside today, so I was, you know what, I'm gonna just sit under the clock. And I'm like, I hope it don't be a distractor or whatever. But
No, it wasn't the clock that was distracting me. It was your shirt with that face on it.
I love your shirt. I love it. I want to emphasize something that Dr. Anthony said, that it was something I tried to bring up a couple of weeks ago, is that you couldn't have worded better, is with this anger, let's channel it and get out there and vote. Like, that's the way we're going to make changes, but also help educate our children to get into these positions and teach them to do the right things, because we're going to have to change the way our leadership is doing things.
Yeah.
If we want the things that we're talking about to change, we have to change not just the leadership, but the platform that it's on right now. And because nothing has changed in the past 200 years. You know, Nick even finally said it again. You know, this is my favorite phrase, and he reminded me of it the other day, is that we live in an 18th century education system.
Yeah, we do.
And a 19th century government system, or actually the other way around, 18th century government and 19th century education system, but we're expected to make 21st century results. That don't work. And they keep the poverty into the poverty. And that's what Nick and I wanted to change. So thank you for encouraging people to get out there and vote.
Yeah,
if
that's very important.
Message out there, Zach, isn't that what I kept saying? If we're having protests, let's get registrations for voting out there and encourage people. If we got to get pamphlets or something, and people to vote.
You're always saying it's got to be much more than just the words and the actions, because yes, we can protest, we can take a knee in the street, and we can do all those things, but without real concrete action. And since I met you, Kim, you've been hammering this home to people. You know, it's very important. At least we have this platform. That's great, and we can go out and talk to other people. But that's very important that we make concrete changes, because, and that was well said. I had never heard that before. 18th century, electoral system.
Education.
Yeah, education, and 19th century, politics. But I always wondered, and this is slightly off, but not off, why we're still using the Electoral College. I never got that. And I don't understand. Is that something? Do we really need to?
No, I don't.
I never understood that. I don't understand why Iowa has the same. It just. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. But go ahead, Andy.
In India, we have.
I'm sorry. I was saying it's sort of like the gerrymandering. When they're drawing the district lines or whatever, because Republicans are notorious for, drawing lines that support their districts where they can remain in office. So it's sort of like that. I'm kind of wavering, like on the Electoral College. I mean, people just basically got to get out and vote. If we vote, the way we should, the candidate of choice that we should that we choose should win the electoral votes. You know, so I'm teeter-tottering, on, like getting rid of it and, keeping it and, things like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I agree. I think as long as people vote their conscience, because I remember standing with my dad, in the 60s, and this was tough times in New York, and to him, the whole community, and it was black, white, we lived in a mixed community, I'm mixed myself, I'm adopted. So a lot of people don't know that, but I'm mixed with Egyptian, Iraq, Iran. And he always had different people of color coming to the house, and because he was a union organizer and a shop steward. So he had to work with all types of people, Spanish, Latin. The first time I ever, smelled Spanish food, I was like, wow, what is that strange smell? So I understand where we are, but he would be so proud to say election day is coming. It was a huge thing. And I'm alive. I'm old enough to remember Kennedy getting his head blown off on national TV. I've seen that. So, I've seen it. And because I'm 62. And I remember he would be so proud. Election day used to be in this country bigger than Christmas. It was every 4 years, you knew this is going to be something that's going to decide things. And we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Election day should be a holiday, but not in the sense of we celebrate. It should be a day where everybody's off. You know what I mean? And even now with COVID, if they would just listen to us, we could fix the problem about spatial voting, because if they can play sports in sports arenas, we can use those same arenas to vote in. You know what I mean? Why isn't nobody thinking about that?
Well, here's something even a little bit simpler. On the last few times that I've gone to vote, they spaced out where we could come for a whole week and vote. And that was awesome. And I want to tell you what, since they started that, there's no lines. I go in, and I'm out in less than 30 minutes. I mean, the road trip is longer than the voting now. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the way we're voting. I think people just need to plan to say, okay, if we're going to space it out a week, then we need to maybe say, okay, try to plan based on how many people are going. Maybe an app. Hey, there's 20 people here. Hey, there's 1,000 people here. But the way they divide it up, like we do it through the rec centers and the churches and community halls, it doesn't get crowded. I don't know what they're complaining about. I
think in the bigger cities it's a problem.
The issue with the voting is, like, let's take for example, Kentucky closed down 95% of their voting stations, voting places. So that's where the issues are coming at. The people in power, which are typically Republicans, they're closing down those voting stations for people, especially in people of color, Black people neighborhoods. I know in Alabama they closed down more than 90% of the DMVs, the driver's license places, where you can get your ID and things like that. So that right there within itself, was a part of voter suppression and caused a lot of elderly people who couldn't get their IDs, a lot of people who were newly registered to vote, not having IDs and things to go and vote. So it's not necessarily going to the places to go vote; it's the places being taken away that you can actually go to and vote. And right. I was going to tell him, we had a situation here yesterday where over the parish, well, in the city, because we live in the rural part, we live in like Natchez, Louisiana, and the parish is Natchez, Louisiana. So we had the mayor's race yesterday, and we got our first Black mayor in the history of Natchez. And Natchez is the oldest settlement in Louisiana. So it was here before a lot of things. So like I was saying, if people want to spark change, they can spark change through voting. And it wasn't just, like Black people, African American who voted. It was, like it was Caucasian. It was, other, races of people who voted there and things like that. So everybody stood, and this is the, the candidate that they selected, and, the one that they supported. And so he actually won, the race. And so that was a big, victory for us over here in terms of, getting new leadership and things.
Well, I got
so if I may, go ahead, Jim.
No,
you go first.
Go in.
So I'm going to be a contrarian if I can, because I think what happens is not party specific. I'm going to go back to when Ed Rendell, who was the former mayor of Philadelphia, was actually the head of the Democratic National Party. And during the national election, one of the reporters asked him about people who were voting in multiple districts, people who were dead who were voting, people and things like that. And his comment, and I was stunned when I heard him make the comment, basically was, yeah, so what's new? Go back to 1948 when Lyndon Johnson stole the election for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas from Coke Stevenson, and look up ballot box 13. In our state in Pennsylvania, Dr. Anthony, you've talked about how the Republicans have changed all the voting lines. The Democrats changed all the voting lines in Pennsylvania, which made principally Republican areas into Democratic areas because of the way they realigned the state. So I think this happens because it's politics. All the politicians do the same thing, frankly, which is why I don't trust one single politician. And I've asked friends of mine to say to me, whom do you know? Well, first of all, we asked to look at Trump's, and he's supposed to give it, and I think he should, but his tax returns. But I would venture to say we should see the tax returns of every single representative and senator in Washington, D.C., and it would be an enormous revelation of how they've all gotten to be at our expense doing things that basically we can't do. You know, Martha Stewart was thrown into jail for basically insider trading, and yet and they may have changed the law, but at the time, with impunity, every member of Congress could do the same thing.
Exactly.
Absolutely not get convicted at all.
And did do.
It's because she was a woman. They threw her in jail. Come on.
What I don't like to do is to make statements that one side does this and the other doesn't, because they all do it. Every single one of them.
There's one thing that
I want to hear what Andre has.
I want to get rid of both parties.
Andre was just saying something.
Hold on 1 second. We got a great discussion. I think Jim had a point, and I know Andre was trying to make a point. So let's go with Andre first, and then we'll come back to you, Jim. So Andre, it's on you.
Politics is the bird. The bird has a left wing, and the bird has a right wing, but it's still connected to the same body. And that's how I feel about that whole thing.
I agree with you. That makes a lot of sense. Jim, you had a point that you wanted to make as well?
Yeah, I was going to say a pox on both houses is definitely called for. But I wanted to go back to Zack telling us about his Egyptian, his Persian nature. And I wanted to say, Zack, you left out alien. You're part.
I'm not allowed to tell you that.
Okay.
Because then you would want to know more, and I can't tell you.
You can't say what planet.
Clearly, the Earth is not ready because we can't even cross the street without our pants by our ankles. We can't even get together on black and white, and we definitely can't get together on politics. So how can you possibly think I'm gonna take you to where we are, carefree and loving? My planet is like a giant golf course with barbecues.
Well, the real point, I was just teasing Zack there, but the real point I wanted to make is that Andre was telling us about his culture and how important it was to him. And so many Americans are ignorant of their culture, their background. The Electoral College was a compromise because between the slave-owning states and the northern states, they had to work out a lot of differences, and they made compromises so that the smaller states could be represented. And there was reasons for it, but it was a compromise. It was not a perfect solution. And it was a couple of centuries ago that we did this. And it no longer serves the same purpose now.
Exactly.
So the Electoral College is out of date. It is not.
Completely.
million people that live in California only get 2 senators. The people that live in North Dakota get 2 senators. You know, this doesn't make sense anymore.
It's not a perfect solution, and it was a couple centuries ago.
No, I agree with you. I do have to make a point to our 2 women here and everything, and that is the fact that 2 days ago we celebrated a major accomplishment from the women's movement and everything of that nature. People do not realize that this is the 100th anniversary of the suffragette movement. So the suffragette movement started 100 years ago today, and I know we have 2 very strong women here in Dr. Anthony and our boss.
Suffragette.
For white women
as well, and these were women of all kinds of diversities. I mean, they were black and white. They were
the black Indian. Women did not get to vote. They were turned away.
They were part of the movement. They're part of the suffragette movement. So I know that the vote came later. A lot of folks don't think that the victory was till 1969, but the movement started, and there's still a lot of victories that have not been accomplished. I was actually a fan of the ERA amendment when it came up. I still think that it needs to be passed, but that's just my personal belief, because I think that there's too much inequality of the genders as well. So I just personally think that we need to even have further steps from what the suffragette movement was part of. But the 19th Amendment was ratified today is the 100th anniversary of that. And speaking of 100th anniversaries, another major one that comes into our culture is this is the 100th anniversary of the Negro Baseball League as well. So those of you that
I didn't know that.
It's the 100th anniversary of that also.
I didn't know that.
Suffrage and beginning of baseball. Wow.
And some of the greatest baseball players ever came out of the Negro League, and some of them never got a chance to play, which is one of the saddest things that ever happened. Somebody like Josh Gibson, who was absolutely
the greatest home run hitter of all time.
He probably was. Unless you have Sudahari over in Japan.
Yeah, that's good point.
Too. Can I go back to music a second?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. So Andre, I really was fascinated by what happened to your hands, but you were fortunate, and God was very gracious to you by giving your thumb on your right hand and your 4 fingers. As people here on the panel know, I'm a classical music freak. And 2 weeks ago, just a phenomenal pianist by the name of Leon Fleischer passed away. And in the I think it was the early 1960s, and he was born in the Socialist Republic, Jim, just so you know. So, but anyway, if for those of you who haven't been around, that's sort of a big joke that Nick started. But Leon Fleischer basically started to lose the feeling in his fingers, and ultimately lost the ability to play with his right hand at all. And he reinvented himself by playing with his left hand. And a lot of people don't realize there was actually a lot of music that was written for the left hand. But then there was his second musician, Gary Graffman, who is still alive. He finally retired as the president of Curtis Music School. And my brother went there for 3 years before going to Juilliard. And Gary Graffman also lost the use of his right hand, and he too reinvented himself to play the piano with his left hand.
Wow.
And there is apparently lots of music written for the left hand. The most notable was written by Maurice Ravel, which is the piano concerto for the left hand. But they both reinvented themselves. Andre, you were very fortunate you didn't have to, and God bless you for not, because I'm sure it would have been a little bit more difficult if you'd lost your right thumb. But you know, you faced adversity and you succeeded in the face of it. And it's just nice to know that you have. And it's nice to know about Leon Fleischer and Gary Graffman as well.
Yes, and Django Reinhardt. And don't forget about Django Reinhardt. Django Reinhardt was a gypsy guitarist who became playing with Duke Ellington and Count Basie, who got into a fire in France and lost the use of these 2 fingers.
Oh wow!
These fingers and he played with 2 fingers Go look at some videos of Django Reinhardt and listen to this guy. And
Wow.
that pretty much tells you that when you want something really bad,
Right.
you always find another way how to accomplish what your heart is telling you. You know, you have to follow your path.
That's right.
When I hear
I want
about
to
these
just jump
guys
in really fast with Mark Negro Baseball League. As you all know, I'm an avid hat collector.
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
this came from the museum out in Kansas City. And I have well over 150 hats, but I just wanted to put that in before. That's where I went. Okay, sorry.
Awesome.
Shout out to left-handers everywhere.
No, I appreciate that, Zach. That was a great segue into the hat and everything. I must add one other musical note as well. Do you know what musical style also is its birth month is this month? Because there's a musical style, you actually have alluded to it. You had a musician that was part of it that was on one of your earlier shows, Zach. But there's a musical style that came out of New York that most of our young folks are involved with, and its birth date is also in August.
I'm guessing it would have to be bebop or hip hop or rap.
Hip hop. Yep. The hip hop's anniversary.
Which came from bebop, you know, which came from scat. E de liap, I'm the chap on the back on the team with the record machine saying, ooh, papa, too. How y'all do, DC?
I'm learning this, Zach. I'm still working
on
on
the
it.
one. That's okay. You got it. No, you got it. You on the one. You totally on the one, Kim. Always, boo, on the one.
We just saw Hamilton the other night, which is all hip hop.
Hamilton,
and it's wonderful. And many of the characters, probably more than 50% are black, and absolutely, it was wonderful. You just didn't even think about it the whole time. Looking at the show, I love the show. I just wish there'd be more of that.
I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm not throwing away my shot.
But my favorite one was the guy dancing across the stage who played Thomas Jefferson. He was an absolute scream. So there you go. Anyway,
great cast.
We need to bring in our other friend that has joined the discussion as well, and we've all heard from different people, but we've not heard from Mr. Jeff. So, Jeff, I'm glad that you have joined us, and we've been talking about a variety of things. You actually missed it, but we have André Lassalle, who is an amazing musician out of the New York area. He just moved everybody totally with his music and things of that nature, but you're over there in the West Coast and are involved with a number of things, including your show here as well. So if you want to talk a little bit about your show as also as about some of your views on electoral politics, women's rights, whatever you feel like going at, because it's an open roundtable. So go for it.
I'm going to start off by saying it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going.
There you go. What?
He said, what?
So
look at those hearts, guys.
I got to meet Grandmaster Flash, and I'm as black as white can be because Ice-T used to spin at my club, and we did break-in and electric boogaloo in my nightclub. That's how old I am.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
We filmed that film, Break-In, at my nightclub in L.A. and MacArthur Park during the day when break-in was happening. And then the freaking police outlawed breakdancing on Hollywood Boulevard because it got too many people happy, you know. And then the gang, once they stopped graffiti and breakdancing, the gang started banging again. And in Brazil, they have capoeira where they break, you know, with beautiful movements instead of fighting each other. And so that's one of my dreams. And every Saturday night, I do something called the Living Room Tapes. So Zack and André, I would love to invite you to come on to my show. It's a live stream show, and it's fucking great. We had 800 people watch last night, you know, and so it's really beautiful. And I don't really know the solution to any of the other things that you were talking about because electoral is a dinosaur. But what I think the medicine should be on the planet is that we all come together and we do the next version of We Are the World, We Are the Children. And they've done it twice already, but it's up to us as musicians to get that song in the studio again and do that video. I'll do the video and I'll do the post-production, but we need all of our people. It doesn't have to be the high-end people. You know, the Bono is silent, and Oprah is silent. I mean, a lot of these people are silent right now. So
Yeah.
if we mix this song, I've done redemption song all over the world, and I just did one last week, okay, with just anybody doing it. And then I'm going to get licensed from, from the Marley people to let me publish that. But the bottom line is that Music for Change has already done beautiful work all over the world and put them together. But what I want to do is do We Are the World again in the studio with everybody that we can get. And we can have our masks on. We can do whatever. It's a sign of the times. Mess with your mind. Hurry before it's too late. Prince. And I got to work with Prince also on Purple Rain. So bottom line is I'm in the music industry, but I'm just a producer and a filmmaker and DJ Jeffy Fresh. And I just want to do We Are the World. We are the ones. Make a better day and let's start living. Da, 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 ba, da, da, da,
I'm in.
da,
Count me in. I'm in. I'm in.
Let's-
And I
Well,
will
first
do
of
a
all,
redemption song for you. I'm in.
You grab me with saying capoeira, because capoeira is based on Orisha.
Yes,
So I'm Orisha. I'm Shango.
Okay.
So capoeira is all based in Orisha. In fact, all the Alegba, Shango, Ochun, everything, that's part of capoeira.
I hung out with the Brazilians in LA for 25 years and I did samba and I did all their crap. And, I didn't do their cocaine, but there was plenty of it. But the bottom line is that I learned capoeira. I learned to do that stuff, but also was during the breakdancing time. And it was identical. And it was the opportunity for us not to squash and hold back, just like electoral voting and gerrymandering. It's fucked up, We need to really balance the world and get back to love. And I think by going in the studio and doing We Are the World again, we'll freaking turn the volume up that we are one.
So
Make
do
it
we have
happen.
to buy the rights or lease the rights to that song? Because I can't remember his name now, but there is somebody who owns the rights.
Quincy Jones owns it.
That's okay. You guys can get to him. If I have some black people around me that are going to go, hey, fuck, we got to do this again. We're ready. We got 20 heavyweights. Let's go. It's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from
going under.
I know that song as well, and you're right. A lot of us are feeling that way. We got to get into the economic talks and things of that nature. So I must bring in our sponsor as well before we wrap up everything. So I do need to hear from Lynn Shepard. So I need to hear from Lynn what he's got to say about the dollar store. And don't worry, Ankid and Dr. Anthony, I do have queued up that song that your dad is featured in. So that might be what we use to wrap everything up. I might give y'all a double dose, maybe your dad and some Rosie Ledette, but definitely we'll talk about that at the end. But right now we need to hear from the dollar store.
Okay.
So I'm going to make this quick because we're winding down the hour and there are other shows coming on. But we own an online dollar store, which is online. It's thefamily.dollarstore.com. We're a sponsor of Money Masters PBS. We love the mission, which is to reduce the gap between poverty and financial sustainability by providing financial education and financial fitness. So we encourage you to go shop, go to the IBM.TV website. There's a big round zero that if you happen to be, since there's mostly men here, but probably at least one of us is colorblind. So it's big and round, even though it's green, so that we can hit the button even if we're colorblind. Become a customer. When you become a customer, you're going to get a lot of benefits. Number one, you don't have to shop, but you're immediately going to get $5 worth of gift tokens. And if you do it by the end of August, you're going to get another $5 worth of gift tokens. Now, when you shop and you order $25 or more, it's going to be free. So look at this. We have face masks, and a box of face masks, 50 of them, cost $25. So all you have to do is buy one box. It's $25. It's going to be delivered to you for free, but if you apply the gift tokens to it, it's going to cost you either $20 or $15. And I know Jim has a calculator all out already, and he's going to figure out what those cost. But as Mark knows, because he's looked through, we have over 4,300 items. I think Mark got stuck at around 41.19, and that's okay. And we're going to give him the opportunity to have a special show one day to go through all 4,300 items, which means people aren't going to be able to sleep because that's a lot of items. But Mark's going to do it. But we have CBD products that you can get in small quantities. We have, and you probably saw Jim and me having fun doing this, but we have CBD patches with lidocaine. They really reduce pain. I know they work. And the fact of the matter is that Jim uses them all the time when he goes to play Sasha in chess, because even though Jim's a great chess player, for some reason he has pain when he plays Sasha. So he uses it in advance because that's what Kimberly suggests. But then remember, you can get severe tendonitis by moving the chess players. And so Jim wears patches on his arms because the chess players are heavy. But then we have to give credit because we want you all to join the club, because we have Minion napkins, and it was pointed out by Kimberly that we have the Minion napkins. So we want you to join the Minion Napkin Club. And when you do, basically, because you have bought from the website, okay, look at that. 4 of us have our Minion napkins. So we want all of you to join the
Ann Kit and get some for Zack. We'll have to send them to Zack.
Wear a mask. It's easy.
Yeah, and wear the mask. And I want Jim to wear it all the time when I'm on, because I'm very concerned that I'm going to get a computer virus from Jim. So he needs to be wearing the mask while he's on the show. But here's the important part. If you shop at the dollar store between now and the end of September, we're giving 100% of our profits. Normally it's 50%, but between now and the end of September, it's 100% of our profits to Money Masters PBS, because we really want to support the mission. And in fact, actually, Kimberly, there are 5 things, because we have lots of, Jim doesn't like me to use the word cheap, so I won't. We have lots of products that are high-end products. They just are less expensive. They're quality products, okay? Johnson & Johnson, Fisher Price, Sesame Street, okay? Dove soap, Jim's favorite and Kimberly's favorite, Irish Spring. Actually, believe it or not, I must be a little stupid. I just realized yesterday my wife uses Irish Spring. And there it was. It's great, but we use it basically in the drawers, because it smells great and it can keep the clothes smelling great. But the point is, you save money, okay? And when you save money, that gives you more money to spend on the things that are necessities. But also, it allows you to actually create savings, which allows you to pay taxes. And because you're going to have money left over, you can pay forward to whatever charity that you want. But here it's very simple. When you spend money, you're supporting Money Masters PBS and the charity and the mission Money Masters has. So that's it. I'm finished. Back to the music, because I love music. Even though I'm a classical freak, I really love music of all kinds. Oh, and Mark, I'm going to challenge you. One day we should do some big band music, because that was my father's favorite. And of course, I think I told you once, I played the drums when I was younger, and I admire anybody who can play the way Buddy Rich played. I didn't.
I would definitely take you up on that challenge. I do love big band music, love all kinds of other music as well. Me and Zack have this running joke and everything, because I've told him this and everything. I'm very proud of my heritage and everything like that. But unfortunately, I think I was the only brother ever. Andre, hate to tell you this, but I got kicked out of the band for not having any rhythm. So he told me I did not have any rhythm.
That's all right. Look at what you're doing now, man. Look at what you're doing now.
Got Native American in my blood. I'm supposed to have rhythm, but apparently my band teacher told me that was not the answer. So I got kicked out of band for lack of rhythm. So I think I got more rhythm now than I had back then. But in high school, I was the non-rhythm kid. So definitely, got a lot of abuse for that, but that's okay. I don't mind it. I can handle it now and things of that nature. Plus, Zach's going to teach me how to play drums one of these days. And then Zach's like, nope, not doing it. Can't do it.
My teaching days are over. I taught at the School of Rock. That was it. I helped open the school down here. But I'd be happy to show you. But my teaching days, those days are gone. Because Mark, you got rhythm though. I see you dancing when you walking past my apartment, going to visit the stores. I see you boogieing. So you got rhythm.
Going as I'm going here and there. So yeah, like I said, the rhythm has definitely been. I think I've got better rhythm than I did as a gangly high school kid and things of that nature. So like I said, that was in my high school days that I did not have that rhythm and everything. By the way, Kim, I need to let you know if you're still watching. Zack doesn't even know this, even though I did flash it at the beginning of the show. But we had a good friend of mine that was watching our program today. That was Ron Thomas. He's a business executive and things of that nature. I give him a shout out because he was actually watching from Dubai. So we had a watcher that was watching from Dubai over there in the Middle East, and he's a big fan of a lot of the stuff that we're doing here on IBM.TV.
So we can't complain about the heat.
So he's definitely popped in and become a major supporter and a big fan of what we're doing. And like I said, he's originally, Zack, you'll be glad to know, originally from New York Times business executive and things of that nature. So I was glad to see that he is a fan of ours now. So he's following what we're doing. I'll see him pop in, and he was the first one to pop in on Zack's show today. And he did say that he was hollering from Dubai, and I think he's probably been watching the whole time. So he's definitely a great supporter of positive things. So I know that he's sponsored a couple of folks. So don't worry, I'll be reaching out to him to see if he can put some money in our coffers as well, since I do know he is a sponsor of events through his company. So we'll see if that happens or does not happen. But we've got Dr. Anthony, if you can tell us what is the connection that you have to Curly Davis.
Guys, I'm gonna have to go, but I just wanted to tell all of you, love you all. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
Thank you, Andre. We look forward to seeing you again.
Good job, Zack.
Bless you. Be good.
Appreciate you. But Dr. Anthony, can you tell us the connection of Curly Davis and the Uniques? Because I'm going to put that on with sound so we can hear what this music is all about. But I think it's a family connection. So if you can tell us what that is.
Yeah, I think it was like before I was born. My dad played bass guitar, and he also sings, but I don't have any of that talent. I'm just smart. So I can not do the We Are the World. I mean, I can stand there and, cute and all that good stuff.
Lip sync.
So, yeah, lip sync. That's my thing. But, yeah, my dad plays bass guitar for Curly Davis and the Uniques. I never met them except for my dad. So I don't even know who they are, to be honest with you. Just my dad.
Look at you, Jeff.
We're going to put that on right now, and we'll see what they're all about. So hold on 1 second as I get ready to hit the share button.
Okay.
We can do Redemption song too.
You're looking beautiful today. What's with this new outfit?
Who?
You.
So I saw Zack and Andre all dressed up in black and gold. So I went and grabbed my black and gold, and because I'm like, I want to be just like them. So, you
got to come in on one.
Feel the burn.
Feel the burn. All right.
Feel the burn. But one of the things I want to point out to people, what Jeff is doing is Jeff is help freeing prisoners that are nonviolent prisoners that got life imprisonment for smoking pot. That's been his mission. He's been successful in getting some relief, and he just doesn't stop. He just keeps working on it a little at a time. He has a Wednesday afternoon show where he has a lot of people who are on the same mission, families of people who are in prison for life, and again, nonviolent criminals. Okay, our prisons are packed as it is. There's no reason to have nonviolent criminals in a prison for life. There should be a reform program. And the fact that, pot is legal in most states, they should go ahead and release these nonviolent ones. And some of them, unfortunately, thanks to COVID, have suffered greatly. And there have been some deaths. So And I haven't kept up with everything like I should. Maybe I should let Jeff talk about this more. But it's irritating to me that we're not doing enough for some of these people. Reform should be reform, not prison. There's a difference. And some of these people, they were probably just doing pot as a recreation. Again, now that it's legal, I've never tried it, but I've never been against anyone who was doing it. To me, it was just as like drinking alcohol or whatever. So I think we need to start focusing on some of these things. And I think reform needs to get back into place. Our juvenile prisons, they're not reform anymore. They're more prisons than they are reform. And that's got to change. That's just got to change.
Agreed.
Crime needs to change too. And we can do that. And stereotyping needs to change as well.
Well, Kimberly, I got to say something about the Family Dollar store too, because Lynn also often mentions that men have a tendency to be colorblind, and they would be out of luck today. Look, Lynn's in his Sunday best, and I like to wear my shirts with plenty of color. But Jeff, you're stealing the show. You're stealing the show color-wise. I hope everybody can.
Well, he's got the moving hearts. So
that's cool
we can learn from Jeff. Jeff is a director and a producer in Hollywood. That's where I met him. I was there doing a film with Henny Morale.
How we doing, Mark?
So, all right, we're going to try it one more time, and I think we've got it now. So we're about to try it one last time and see if this works, and it looks like it's going to work this time.
There you go.
Go for it.
I don't have control.
Oh, look at that. It's 45. Takes me back.
Word.
He's going back in time to the 45 days.
I still have my turntable.
Okay. There we go. That's the play button.
So can you mic some of the people so we get rid of that echo?
I'll mute myself.
Yes.
And I'm going to have to take my leave, but I'm going to be listening. But I have a business meeting on Sunday. So God bless
So that was that group that is connected to Dr. Anthony and everything of that nature. I also promised her a little bit of Zydeco as well. So y'all can keep that conversation going, but I think we're going to give her roses.
That was sweet.
And a little bit of that Zydeco flavor that I know a lot of folks are really into and things of that nature. So we're going to keep this thing rolling with one of my favorites.
I'm asking you to
No,
make
not
a
that.
donation
We don't want
right
that.
now.
That's not a favorite. That is not a favorite at all. So we're going to cancel that one. Well, y'all just keep on conversating while I try to get rid of these silly ads, because that's the only bad thing about these things is you get silly ads with them. So
don't forget, you guys, to get in touch with me, and we'll move forward with getting you on the
I got your info, Jeff, and I'll be calling you tonight.
Zydeco.
You better keep your dog on a real short leash. He comes back to my yard, he's gonna belong to me. Bow wow. I wanna rub him on his stomach, I wanna pat him on his head, I'll feed him real good, I'll let him sleep on my bed. Bow wow. You gotta treat a dog good, give him plenty doggy treats, and then he wouldn't come snipping a pussy cat like me. Meow. Break it down. You better keep your dog on a real short leash. He comes back to my yard, he's gonna belong to me. Now this is a warning, girl, you better understand. I'ma get your doggy licking out the palm of my hand. Don't let your little dog follow me home, 'cause I got a place where he can bury his bones. Bow wow. Bow wow. Bow wow. You better keep your dog on a real short leash. He comes back to my yard, he's gonna belong to me. Bow wow. Bow wow.
Just a little bit of the flavor of the Zydeco sounds and things of that nature, because figured I'd let Dr. Anthony feel at home and get a little bit of home cooking, since hopefully I will get some of that red beans and rice later on, but definitely want to have a flavor of that home cooking that I know she could probably enjoy that music and probably gets by and gets to some of those kind of dances on a regular basis. I could also see that Jeff and Jim were also grooving to those sounds as well. So they were enjoying them also. So definitely had a great.
I got a question for Dr. Anthony though, and as a musician, you would think I would know this, but I do not. Why do they call it Zydeco?
To be honest with you, I don't know the origins. Why they call it Zydeco? But I do know that it's playing it in English, so I think that was our version of, music. The enslaved people were brought from Africa, and they had to, get acclimated with, the English ways and, the French ways out of New Orleans and, basically the state and things like that. So that's my take on it.
Because what I love about that culture, and I don't mean that like saying that, but that particular culture that spawned out of everything, most people nowadays, they don't realize that King Oliver was the guy. Ma Rainey was the guy, Bessie. So those people that started that platform throughout the hardest times that they could possibly deal with. Louis Armstrong was born in the house of ill repute. So these people had this thing, this fire, this desire to make all of this great music. The recordings, a lot of times, the early ones really weren't done that well. It was called race music. They weren't allowed to be on mainstream media. They had to play in what's called the honky tonks, the juke joints, the chitlin circuit, as it were. And when Louis Armstrong, and I have a documentary on him, when he was allowed to take what King Oliver taught him, because he was so good, Armstrong, King Oliver said, listen, I want this young kid in my band. And Louis had such a gift, and Whit Marcellus talks about this, he could mimic what King Oliver was playing before he played it to get the harmony. So you got to have some kind of crazy, God-giving, terrible, crazy, stupid gift.
Alien.
Yes. Well, we call it playing by ear. So my brothers, by my dad, plays by ear, so they can listen to a song.
Yeah, that's how we learn.
I've always admired that.
But what I was going to say is that when Louis Armstrong was given permission, and he was by King Oliver to take it to Chicago to move that music out, Louis never forgot, and he always went back and brought everybody. And that was a big thing that I watched, because I watch his documentary all the time, because Louis Armstrong ended up living in Queens. So, we couldn't adapt him as ours. But he always said, listen, it wasn't me, it was King Oliver. King Oliver was the guy. And Ma Rainey and Bessie Smith, those people, they begot the Billie Holidays of the world. But it was those people first. So in a way, New Orleans, right, is the birthplace of jazz, not Chicago. And I just wanted to make that clear, because I get so upset when people say Chicago. No, it's New Orleans.
Well, a lot of people were saying, I watched a documentary on Memphis or whatever, and so the Memphis Blues, they were trying to say that the Memphis Blues was the birthplace of, like jazz, but I'm in agreement with you. I think it was New Orleans that was the birthplace of jazz, because we have like so many, different genres of music that just came out of Louisiana that, everybody is, like using now and, like mimicking and, things like that. Because my cousin's dad, he played in a band, and they have recorded music and things like that. So we're kind of like musically inclined. Not me per se, but they are. I can't even hold a note, but they experience all of that. So I'm totally in agreement with you.
And American classical music was actually born in the opera houses, where New Orleans. See, I know my history, and when I teach my kids that, and I'm sure Jim and Jeff and Mark can agree that, despite New Orleans is a real strong place. I thought New York was strong, but New Orleans, man, hurricanes and this and that and floods. That you people, not you specifically, but New Orleans, New Orleanians, you people. No, New Orleanians are extremely powerful, strong people. And one of my favorite bands down at Dumpster Funk, of course, love them. My boys, Tony Hall and Nick Daniels, Dumpster Funk. If y'all don't know, now you know.
What were you going to say before we wrap everything up? What were you going to say, Jim?
I was going to say, I'm not as smart as Dr. Anthony, but I know everything. And Zydeco is a combination. It was in Southwest Louisiana by French Creole speakers. And it blends blues, rhythm and blues, and music indigenous to the Louisiana Creoles and the native people of Louisiana.
You do know everything. Thank you.
Google is an amazing thing.
Louisiana, we speak a version of the broken down French here, in Louisiana. So, yeah, we have a little bit of that, a little bit of Spanish, So we just mix it all together and just call us basically.
Well, the Louisiana Purchase, you got that. America got that from the French.
Yes, they did for 15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All I know is I'm hungry for some blackened catfish now. That's all I know. That's my favorite.
My next movie I want to
black
produce,
beans and rice, any of that, I'm good with.
My next movie I want to produce. Maybe we can get Spike on it, but we want to do the new Jim Crow. I mean, what the fuck?
Well, we're not booked into animated film, so if you're into that, that's what.
And nobody's doing it yet.
Dr. Anthony, you're doing it. It has to be a cartoon, so.
That's okay. I have a comic book company that we're doing comics for a cause, and we want to do animation. So let's connect, Dr. Anthony, for sure.
Oh yes, most definitely. Zach, you have this
I'll
information.
let you know about comics for a cause. We got Tommy Strong. He's going to be a marijuana superhero. He's going to be Dr. Miyagi. He's going to be Dr. Miyagi with a cape, and all the kids are going to come to him, and he's going to teach them how to go out and give CBD to old people in retirement homes.
We're going to have to paint the fence.
Right.
Sounds like an amazing superhero. So we're going to learn more about that during the course of time and everything. It is time for us to wrap everything up. So I'm going to bring on, which of course makes Jim a little bit upset because I've got the power. So I'm going to bring the ambassador on and things of that nature. And so we're going to have the ambassador come on. And then after the ambassador, we will have the greeting that talks about IBM.TV. I hope that folks will join me on Monday because we do have the 2 shows on tomorrow. So we've got a variety of great guests. As a matter of fact, one of them will be Curtis Gatewood, who is an activist here in this area. So looking forward to having a great conversation with him and a number of other folks. I believe that Indian musician that I was expecting last week will be on this week. So hopefully that is the case. And of course, we've got all kinds of other great programming. As a matter of fact, we know that later on today, you can catch Alexandria and her show. And she's always doing some amazing things with her show. And there are some other great content here on IBM.TV. We know that sometime in September, we'll be hearing from Dr. Anthony, and she'll be bringing us a show as well. So we're looking forward to that sometime in September or in the near future, because she's definitely joining the team as well. What did you say, Dr. Anthony?
I said in the near future, I have to get back to DC. My truck is not ready yet. It's still in the shop. So everything is contingent upon when Audie can have my truck ready.
Understood. So we're hoping September, October, but hopefully definitely before the end of the year, we're hoping to have you on as a regular as well. So we all know it is contingent upon things that are out of your control, like the things that are going on with transportation and things of that nature. But right now we're going to bring on the ambassador, and then we will close out the show. Zack, I had to tell you, it was an amazing show, another great show with Funk Music with Zack. I have become a big-time fan of André Lassalle. I told you, he had already convinced me when I found those musics of his last night on SoundCloud. But now that I've heard him live, I'm going to be trying to come by your house and be like, when can you dub me some tapes? I need them now. So,
and Zack, where you been hiding these people?
Well, God sends them to me, and I just bring them to the platform.
Until I met you, I didn't know these people.
I just share what's out there. That's what I do, and I've been blessed to be with all great people, and I'm glad, and I'm so happy Dr. Anthony's coming aboard, and Jeff, it was great, nice meeting you, because Dr. Anthony was nice enough to let me stay at her house when I went to DC to do her radio show. Not a lot of people would have did that because she didn't know me from Adam, and I'll never forget that, sweetie. Thank you for doing that. And Jeff, I gave Dr. Anthony your phone number, and I just talked with Andy, and he's down. We're going to make this happen. Going to be on your show and do some good things. And thank you, everybody. Love all you guys. You guys are amazing.
You too, Zack.
You guys are amazing. Thank you, Jim.
Love everybody except for Mark.
Oh, be that way. Yeah, you love me as well. I'm your main buddy. That's why I keep inviting you back to my show to be like, he's like my ringer co-host that I pull in every once in a while. So
I have one final.
I enjoy him as well.
I have
Go
one
ahead, Zack.
final rap. I have one final rap.
Go for it.
A million magic crystals were painted pure and white. A multi-million dollars were made overnight. Freeze, or don't do it.
All right.
For a white boy. For a white boy.
Lines.
For a white boy.
You gotta love it. Now let's bring on the ambassador.
I love you. Love you.
कोरोना वायरस से कैसे बचेंगे? ओके, हैंड होकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अच्छू अच्छू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
Every time. Gets me every time.
Every time. And on that note, we'll put on the IBM intro, and then we'll call it a day. Appreciate all of y'all. Peace.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Good job today, buddy.
Thank you.